Our honorary degree recipient today is Mr. Greg Wells, who will be introduced by Mr. Steve Bellamy, Associate Dean, the School of Creative and Performing Arts.
Thank you. Today's honorary Bachelor of Applied Studies degree is awarded to Mr. Greg Wells. One of the most sought-after music producers in the world, Greg Wells got his start in Toronto, studying classical piano, drums, organ, and theory at the Royal Conservatory of Music, and studying jazz, drums, piano, and guitar at Humber College. After spending time working with artists like Rob McConnell and Kim Mitchell, he moved to Los Angeles and studied with legendary composer and arranger Claire Fisher, who had worked with jazz greats Donald Byrd and Dizzy Gillespie, and was doing string arranging and writing for modern artists Robert Palmer, Michael Jackson, and most frequently Prince. Claire Fisher soon began recommending him for work, and since that time, demand for his skills as a music producer, mixing engineer, composer, arranger, and multi-instrumentalist have not stopped. Greg's credits include work with everyone from Sir George Martin and the Count Basie Orchestra to Mika, Pharrell Williams, Adele, Katy Perry, 21 Pilots, Pink, Timbaland, OneRepublic, and Rufus Wainwright, to name just a few. His songs appear on more than 85 million albums sold, and the number is climbing. Leading artists continue to track him down for his expertise at helping to craft their songs into works of art that appeal to millions. But remaining at the top of an industry that is undergoing radical change requires a lot more than expertise. In the past 2 decades, few industries have undergone as much change as the music industry, and in particular, the recording industry. Old business models are folding, changing, and adapting to new paradigms in distribution and consumption of music. New players come and go quickly, but it is versatility, diversity, and the ability to adapt and apply that expertise under ever-changing circumstances while doing it consistently at a world-class level that is what keeps Greg Wells in demand. Greg is also keenly interested in education. He returned to us at Humber in 2013 to be our producer in residence, where he worked with students on their own music in our recording studios and gave them an experience that they will remember for a lifetime. He is creative, he is entrepreneurial, he is versatile, and he continues to be successful by combining these traits. President Whitaker, Ms. McKinney, it is with great honor and pleasure that we ask you to confer upon Mr. Greg Wells this Bachelor of Applied Studies degree.
Holy moly. Okay. I'm just a little nervous, but... good morning, members of the Board of Governors, President Whitaker, 2,620 guests, and most importantly, the 540 graduates of 2015. A round of applause, please. Okay, right now, you are probably wondering who I am, well, maybe not at this point, and why I'm on stage in front of you. I myself have some of the same questions, but without getting into the deeper existential elements of who we all are, I can tell you that I'm Greg Wells, originally from Peterborough, Ontario. This is going to be a bit overlapping. I didn't know that was going to be such a flattering introduction. But I'm getting to a much better point than any muscle flexing name dropping I can do. So let me wade through that first. So I'm Greg Wells. I'm originally from Peterborough, Ontario. I'm a musician on several instruments, a songwriter, a record producer, which is kind of the same thing as being a movie director, except there's just no visual element. There's no cameras. My songs have indeed somehow sold 85 million albums. I have luckily worked with many of my heroes, like iconic songwriter Burt Bacharach, who most of you are way too young to know who that is, but he kind of wipes the floor with all of us. Makes me feel like I should have quit a long time ago. The Beatles producers, Sir George Martin, and the Count Basie Orchestra, my favorite big band of all time, and some of the world's most famous singers that you may have heard of, like Adele and Katy Perry and OneRepublic and Timbaland and Mika, to Canadian icons like Rufus Wainwright, Katie Lang, Kim Mitchell, and many others. I've just had a song of mine recorded by Beyoncé. I've performed, you've heard of her. I performed on the Grammy Awards twice. I've been nominated multiple times for Grammys, and am also ambitiously starting a music school in Los Angeles in a few weeks called the Modern Music Conservatory. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed. I'm not sure how any of this qualifies me to give a speech to business graduates. But since you're sitting down there and I'm briefly perched up here, you're trapped in my enormous sandbox for a minute, so I'm going to hit you with a bunch of things that I wish someone had said to me at your age. So buckle in and enjoy my speech to myself. When I got the great honor to be invited to come speak at this graduation, at your graduation, I imagined myself standing here looking out at you right now while rocking this flowing gown, embodying the promise and the pride of Humber College, which I feel incredibly grateful to have attended. And I thought about the most useful piece of knowledge I could pass on to you today. So, what I feel the most compelled to share with you out of all the parts that have made up my career is that this career has mostly been a monumental failure. The gift of failure is the first of 3 topics that I'm going to get into this morning, followed by number 2, aiming higher than misery, and finally, number 3, realizing that we're all about to die. Just keeping it light and breezy on a Toronto Tuesday morning. Okay, number 1, my dear friend, failure. For every single success story I have, including all the name dropping that just went down here, I have at least 100 snoozy stories of absolute, abject, utter failure. For years, I made no money for any record label and wrote hundreds and hundreds of songs that never saw the light of day. You'll never hear, you've never heard of them. No one heard them. I got hired many times to produce records that never sold enough to even recoup the costs just to make them. 5 full albums I produced and written songs for, were never released and never will be, for reasons stemming from an executive at a record label getting fired, or the record company itself getting sold, or the singer endlessly crying for hours over a bad breakup, or once, a singer literally did not show up at my studio for 3 days in a row because they had brilliantly discovered crystal meth, and then immediately checked into rehab without finishing what we'd tried to record together. This has resulted in years of my work that will never get released to the public. There have been so many times when it looked to me, clearly, like every sign, every metaphorical ribbon tied around the trees in the metaphorical forest, all pointed to me finally realizing my career is over. Toast. And for unknown reasons, right when it looked the darkest, something would turn around. I'm not alone in this insane roller coaster experience of thinking the book has ended and then realizing it was just the end of a chapter. Some historical cases in point: Henry Ford, pretty famous car maker, his first car company completely failed. Steve Jobs, you may have heard of, originally got fired from Apple, the company that he started. Bill Gates' first company fizzled out. Michael Jordan didn't even make his high school varsity basketball team. Winston Churchill said, quote, "Success I love this quote. Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Thomas Edison, who invented so many things, said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. And by the way, thank you, Mr. Edison, for not quitting, because otherwise we'd all be in the dark. There would be no record business, and I would be without my precious spotlight. He also said, many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. That's huge. This quote, this particular quote, was almost the story of my life. I had hit a ceiling of success in the early 2000s in Los Angeles, and I felt creatively dissatisfied with the work coming my way. Just felt like the same thing over and over again, and I just pictured myself in 20 years doing the same thing and just thought, this might be time for a big change. So I came up with a plan to drastically change my and my family's life and move to a little island off the coast of British Columbia and live a much simpler life. My manager at the time, he's no longer my manager, but it's probably the best thing he ever did for me. He took the news in stride, and at first he said, I guess it doesn't really matter where you live, it's about the work. And then he called me 2 days later, and I could tell he'd really thought about what he was going to say. And he said, listen, I've managed a lot of record producers, some of my favorite ones, when they were unknown, and then they got a lucky break and it went. That's where you are right now. If you quit, you're throwing away all these years of work that you've been pointing toward this one direction. Just give it one more year. Go visit that island, but don't move there yet. Give it one more year. I promise you, things are going to change in a year. He then started flirting with every record executive that came to hire me, and I had to fire him, but he was right, because I met this crazy artist from London named Mika. I made his first record, and we sold 6 million records, and it changed my career forever. When I joined the Musicians Union in my hometown of Peterborough at age 15, I was given a little welcome package to take home, and there was a page with this quote on it, which I loved, and I hung it over my bed. I'm going to read it to you now. It's by Calvin Coolidge, who was an early U.S. president. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common. I feel the same way, by the way. I'm with you. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. And women. I didn't write it. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. My dad, Reverend Dr. Bill Wells, used to say that if I wanted true security, I may as well jump in my own coffin and nail it shut now. He said, death is the only secure thing we can all count on. Basically, the entire approach of my crazy career, the reason I'm standing here now, is don't quit. In truth, on this gown I'm wearing, in all caps, should be the words, don't quit. My firstborn child should have been named, don't quit. I honestly feel the words failure and success should be changed to I quit and I didn't quit. So don't quit. Okay, number 2, aiming higher than misery. Growing up in Peterborough, I was given the message by teachers and others that the idea of pursuing a career in music, the only thing I was interested in, was a foolish idea and would end in heartbreak and a non-existent bank account. And I understand that if you make a succession of bad choices and you aren't paying attention, that prediction is potentially accurate. But I'll never forget the afternoon I was riding on the Toronto subway, the TTC, and I read an advertisement with the Einstein quote, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." I honestly almost fell off my chair. I'd never heard that quote before, yet it encapsulated how I felt all throughout my years of elementary and high school in particular. In business, in marriage, in the arts, in politics, frankly, in the entire universe, it's all about the idea that springs from this imagination that we've all got plenty of. The idea is king. And there really is no security to be found out there in the cosmos or here in Toronto. Companies go under every week and people get fired. Regardless, a great idea cannot be kept down. A great idea is immune to the tides and currents of finance. If you think about it, the tides and currents of the world of finance couldn't exist without great ideas. Money itself is not the thing. Money follows great ideas. So think about, what are your ideas? What makes you, as a college graduate, come alive and get excited? What sort of a life situation would you like for yourself? What do you desire? As my favorite modern philosopher Alan Watts would also ask. Old, wise man that I am at this point, I often find myself giving life and career advice to younger people and students. They come to me and say, we're getting out of college, we have no idea what we want to do. So the question I ask them is, what would you like to do if money didn't matter? If money really were no object? How would you actually enjoy spending your life? Many students will say, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets or writers, we'd like to maybe learn a musical instrument, but as everybody knows, you can't earn any money that way. Or another person might say, I'd like to live an outdoors life and ride horses. When we finally get down to something authentic to the person, when the individual says what he really wants to do, I will say to him, go do that and forget about the money. Because if you say that getting money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, which means you'll go on doing things you don't like doing, which frankly is a terrible decision. It's better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. Besides, when you're in your 20s and even your 30s, you don't really need that much money. Of course, the kicker to this is, the light at the end of the tunnel is, if you do really like what you're doing, and it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually make a lot of money from it. If you wholeheartedly pursue and chase something you love doing, you will eventually become a master of it. It's sort of unavoidable. It's the only way to become a master of something, to immerse yourself in every detail of something you love. And then you'll be able to do many things with all that experience, mastery, and knowledge, including getting a high fee for whatever it is you now specialize in, or perhaps something even so impossible to imagine as being given an honorary degree from the college you went to that you didn't even graduate from. Awkward. So don't worry too much, because somebody out there is interested in everything you can think of. Anything you can be interested in, you will find others that are too. But I really feel it's a waste of time spending your time doing things you don't like, and to teach our children to follow the same tried and true path. Whether we clock it or not, we're bringing up children and educating them to live the same sort of lives we are living. I feel nothing speaks louder to children than the example that you set for them, the way you live your life and how you interface with people. It greatly trumps any words of advice or discipline you'll give them. So if any of this ranting is sinking in, I feel it's important to ask yourself, what do you desire? This is, I'm kind of talking out of school a little bit and throwing my neighbors under the bus, but in Los Angeles, I live around some of the wealthiest people I've ever met, the kind of monetary wealth you read about. This is pretty judgy of me to say, but I have to say, and I'm far from perfect myself, but I have to say a high percentage of them seem to have not the happiest home life. And it seems the desire to constantly be acquiring more capital undermines the good in their lives, like family and friends. It makes me question what the word wealth really means, because having a lot of money in the bank doesn't seem to make anyone wealthy. If you aim for happiness, I really feel that wealth in all forms will follow. Okay, we're almost getting there. So, final point, number 3, realizing, and I'm saying this with a smile, that we're all about to die. This brings me back to what my dad said about death and security. It's the one thing we can all count on, and I find that quite freeing. I find it quite helpful. If you truly wrap your head around the inarguable fact that we'll all be dead in the blink of a historical eye, we have nothing to lose. Almost no risk seems too great. There is no point in settling until you've found what really feels like your passion in career, in life, and in love. I'd like to read a quote by an American author named Christopher Rice. He wrote, "Every day is a bank account, and time is our currency. No one is rich, no one is poor. We've got 24 hours each." Really wrap your head around the fact that life is short, and the older you get, the quicker it seems to go for some reason, I guess because you got more years under your belt. So given that we're all dead in a matter of minutes, I advise you to be a good, generous, and empathetic person. Let me talk for a second about the word empathy, which I feel ties in to what President Chris was saying about soft skills and how the hard skills are sort of rendered useless without the soft skills. I'm going to jump off script for a second, but the word vulnerable has really just been given a bad rap. I think it's not weak to be vulnerable. I think it is much stronger to be vulnerable than it is to kind of, I won't feel anything and I'm just going to do this thing. And like, you got to be open, especially today. Let me get into what I'm talking about here. So empathy is from the Greek. Em means in. Pathos means feeling. So you're in the feeling of the thing. The Webster definition of empathy is the feeling that you understand and share another person's experiences and emotions. The ability to share someone else's feelings. Empathy is a very important tool to me in the studio and to business leaders around the globe. Frankly, I think you're sunk without it. Empathy is like musical harmony in my line of work. To truly understand your environment, you have to rely on empathy to get people's point of view, their history and perspective. In music, the melody note has to be surrounded by a harmonic chord and a rhythm or a beat that effectively supports that melody. If the melody does its own thing, divorced from the supporting harmony and rhythm, you'll probably have an unlistenable song on your hands. And listening is the key. Don't just hear something. Listen to it. Listen hard. Let it in. Let it bounce around your own inner reverb chamber. Legendary Wall Street tycoon and gazillionaire Bernard Baruch was quoted as saying, and I love this quote, "Most of the successful people I've known are the ones who do more listening than talking." Empathy, especially today, truly is the force that moves businesses forward. The days of the alpha male, the dominant, typically cigar-chomping leader who knows everything, who gives direction to everybody and sets the pace, whom everybody follows because this person is so smart and intelligent and clever, that time is over. We need a new kind of leader who focuses much more on relationships and understands that leadership is not about him or herself, who knows they need to listen to other people, to be intellectually curious and emotionally open, vulnerable, who understands the immeasurable helpfulness of empathy. Billionaire Richard Branson stresses the importance of seeking and supporting a wide, diverse range of people and being open to input and potential solutions through active listening. He says, quote, Over more than 40 years of building our businesses at the Virgin Group, we've seen that employing people from different backgrounds who have various skills, viewpoints, and personalities that will help you spot opportunities, anticipate problems, and come up with original solutions before your competitors do. I'm almost done. And while I'm quoting billionaires and giving you the inside scoop how to acquire your own billions, I want to recommend that once you make that money, give it away. I give away a free drum set on my little Twitter account every 3 months to anyone who wants to drum that doesn't currently own drums. That's it. I don't get anything out of it. It's just a blast doing that. I donate 2 annual scholarships to Humber, to the music department, and it feels great to do that every year. I myself needed plenty of scholarships to get through school, as paying my own way through school was the only option I had. Neither one of these charitable acts costs that much money, and I love the idea of helping someone just starting their professional journey. Charitable donations also don't have to be financial ones. If money is tight, giving your time is often more valuable than writing a check. Anything you can do to improve the quality of people's lives directly affects the quality of your own life. And everybody wins. Everybody wins. So in summary, and on the theme of everybody winning, as you venture out into your life without teachers advising or judging your efforts, I sincerely wish for you to fail many times over so that you may succeed one day. Pay attention to the details of your failures, and you will eventually experience a rock-solid success built on the lessons of all of your previous attempts. And it will be a success that likely outlasts many of your competitors who may have hit a brief run of good luck. I sincerely wish for you to aim high, so much higher than the misery of chasing money into a miserable job with a miserable life lurking around the corner. Ask yourself what you truly desire, and let the fabric and intent of that fill your business ventures. Let it be your business venture. And finally, I sincerely wish for you to let the awareness of your own death be the thing that clarifies big decisions for you. Crank your empathy dial up to 10 and realize that all of us share the same trajectory. Be charitable in a way that feels right to you. You might be supporting the next you might be supporting the next me. And in every way, follow your gut instinct away from things that feel wrong and toward what feels right. Congratulations on arriving at the point in your life where you now have only one set of hands on the wheel. Today is the beginning of the next chapter of your journey, and I wish you all the best out there. Thank you.